All right, folks. Now I'm back with two guys instead of one. So very soon we're going to have the stage full of people. So in the previous chat and over the course of the day, we've talked about the different hybrid models, public, dedicated, local, the availability of services, the platform components. In this particular section, we are going to go into specifics of how our local delivery model works. So going back to the picture, because a consistent theme and a consistent way of looking at the problem is important, we look at local as the context in which we can provide the entirety of cloud services. That doesn't mean all services provided as cloud, but having an infrastructure service, a platform service, a select set of services, the manageability of the service, services that let you integrate or offer APIs, services that let you integrate with your back-end systems or with mainframe systems, etc., really constitute what local is. And so we're going to get into a little bit more on what's our philosophy around local, what are the capabilities we provide around local, etc. So going back to the architectural picture, it is the models that we offer are public, which is off-premise but shared, dedicated, which is off-premise but localized to a particular set of a particular customer, and local, which is in your data center. And across this, there are really a set of things that we need to provide. First of all, it's the compute models, whether it is our OpenStack-based infrastructure as a service, whether it's the Cloud Foundry, Docker containers, patterns, as well as some of the services that we talked about in the last session. All of them need to be available so that you can build applications and so on and so forth. A subset of the services that we have that facilitate the integration to back-end systems, the basic runtimes to build applications, and a select set of services that enable you to address things like data locality or caching, etc. So think of almost local becoming an edge of the network that has the ability to exploit and connect to back-end systems, but also syndicate systems that come from the cloud. Now, that combination is what really gives you both the velocity and the access to a breadth of services. Being able to govern that is very important. We'll go through a little bit of a demo on how we can govern some of the services and the visibility of those services, and Jeff will go through that particular aspect. Now, when you look at a decomposition of the platform, certainly there are infrastructure services, and from a standards and from a strategy perspective, we are focused on OpenStack as the mechanism to deliver that. A set of platform services, which include the core foundations like Docker and Cloud Foundry. A set of software and services, which is, imagine our NoSQL services, Watson, Internet of Things, the whole set of services available, and the ability to build solutions on top of that. So this is kind of a rough view of the stack. And this is driven on some core principles, an open cloud architecture, the ability to manage it, whether it is on-premise or off-premise, which is the discussion we had a few minutes ago, the ability to deliver it in a seamless way. And I think if you look at some of the capabilities we talked about, and perhaps the name of the event as well, which is Relay, is being able to provide a cloud experience, not necessarily a software experience, but a service experience wherever your cloud is, whether it is off-premise, whether it's dedicated, or whether it's local. I think that's a very critical element of the ability to deliver in terms of speed, in terms of economics, cloud economics in particular, as to and it not being software, it being a service. So I think we'll go into some of the discussions and the motivations there as well. So open, and we went through, Angel went through a lot of this, but open is very central to our delivery model. It's open not from a perspective of absorbing open source components and saying, hey, it's an open source based set of capabilities. It's open communities, it's our participation, it's our contribution to the open community. It is innovating in the open, all of which become very central to our participation in an open community.
I think one of the key pieces here is that by adopting this methodology, IBM Cloud is not saying our differentiation exists in software. We're saying our differentiation exists in the experience that you are getting from that software and the service that you're getting or consuming. And it's a powerful change from how software has traditionally been sold. We're trying to bring that actual cloud experience to our customers regardless of location.
Yep. And across the spectrum, whether it is at the infrastructure level with OpenStack, whether it's at the container level with Docker, whether it's at abstracted container level with Cloud Foundry, whether it's some of the build packs and runtimes like Node, all of these are central to our strategy, and open is central to our strategy. The second element is when you look at a hybrid environment and you look at things like data provenance, country boundaries, or respecting country boundaries, et cetera, you need to have a strategy that is having a set of public data centers in various locations, shared location, being able to dedicate some of those across the set of data centers that we have. And from a software perspective, we have data centers in a variety of locations in a variety of countries. Being able to take Bluemix or take OpenStack and be able to deliver it within the boundaries of a country is particularly important. And obviously local, which is in your data center, so I guess it's all over the place. So from a cloud perspective, there are three critical considerations. One of them is it's not an IaaS decision or a PaaS decision or a SaaS decision. It is how do you bring a set of services afforded by all of these layers so that you can build effective applications. The second one, which we talked about even in the earlier session, is I can't move everything to cloud. In some cases, it doesn't just make economic sense. How do I leverage my existing IT processes, applications, business processes? And I do believe, and I think we do believe, that as the world evolves, the success of an application, the success of a business is going to be driven by how they take advantage of a hybrid model, which is some functions stay within the enterprise, some functions need to be outside the enterprise to reach end users, some of them might have specific requirements from a security perspective or a performance perspective, which might require, address things like noisy neighbor problems, so having a dedicated environment. So being able to take advantage of those is absolutely critical. So when we start looking at the technology stack, Jesse is going to start with the infrastructure, talk about some of the capabilities that we are looking at from an OpenStack perspective. We'll look at some of the higher layers effectively, which is containers and Cloud Foundry from a platform perspective, and then we'll go through some of the management capabilities that we provide to espouse exactly the model that you talked about, which is it's a service delivery model, not a software model.
Perfect. Thanks, Bob. And thank you all for joining us today. I'm excited to be here and talk to you about the infrastructure story. So I'm Jesse Proudman. I'm the founder of Bluebox. Bluebox was acquired by IBM back in June 2nd. So we're 5 months in to the acquisition. It was interesting being able to go through that M&A process because we had an opportunity to go and talk with the executive leadership from almost every company that was involved in the OpenStack space and sat down and talked about the strategy and how Bluebox would fit into that strategy. And I recall one meeting where it was literally a 3-hour meeting, and I have 8 pages of notes writing down the OpenStack strategy and the cloud strategy. And I'm sitting there scratching my head in this 3 hours trying to figure out how do I get my team excited, how do we get customers excited, and how is this strategy relevant when we talk about this new world that we're moving into. And when we met the IBM team and they laid out this picture for me, I knew we'd found our home. This picture, every time I explain this picture to a prospect, to a customer, to a recruit that we're working on, I get more and more excited about this story because I think there are things here that nobody else in this space are doing. There are things here that are unique to IBM and that can bring a lot of value to IBM's customers and that can leverage things that are unique about IBM to make IBM successful in the cloud era. So I want to start with infrastructure. And as Bala mentioned, at the end of the day, what are we all trying to do? Well, we're all trying to deliver solutions to our customers or to your end users. So businesses are building solutions. Solutions are powered by software. Software runs on a platform, and that platform has to run on infrastructure. And at IBM, we've selected OpenStack as that infrastructure of choice to power our open cloud. Click through here. So why OpenStack? And why the as-a-service, private cloud as-a-service model that Bluebox delivers? Well, OpenStack brings a lot of power. As Danny mentioned earlier, the ability to abstract infrastructure to a set of APIs regardless of location is a really unique capability, and it's one that competitors in the marketplace don't have. But OpenStack is hard, and we've seen that over the last 5 years. I got into this a little bit earlier in the panel today, but if you think about traditional development or traditional deployment of systems, things were much, much simpler, right? You had a multi-tier web application or you had a single database. They weren't these large distributed systems that make up cloud implementations today. OpenStack isn't that way. OpenStack is incredibly complex. You have a ton of pieces. There are now something like 25 different OpenStack projects. They've changed the OpenStack strategy to include what they call the big tent. So now anybody can contribute code to the OpenStack initiative, and as it evolves in its maturity, it gets tagged a certain way. So there are every release more and more pieces coming into the OpenStack story. Those releases happen every 6 months. And so the velocity of release is incredibly hard for organizations to track. OpenStack is a distributed system. That is a different engineering problem and a different set of skills than most engineers are used to operating with. OpenStack's written in Python, which again is a different engineering language than many developers are used to working with. And then lastly, OpenStack is hard because nobody has time, right? Time is our most valuable resource, and everybody, in all of your organizations, that's the thing they have least of. Nobody says, oh, I have all this time to go learn a new technology, what should I go work on? They're saying, how do I get done everything I need to get done in the time I have allotted without working weekends and nights? And so to take that time that you have, that precious time, and go try to work on a set of technology that it doesn't necessarily differentiate your business, in my perspective, doesn't make a lot of sense to an organization. So a funny thing happened as OpenStack evolved. We started to see a lot of original business models. The distribution business model was very popular. So I'll take OpenStack, I'll package it, and I'll try to sell it as software. And a lot of organizations started off that way. In fact, if you look at the history of OpenStack, some of the original founding developers that wrote the technology went on to start companies that sold software distributions of OpenStack. And those companies have all either failed or been acqui-hired into larger organizations. So we stepped back and we said, why is that happening? And it's because of that original problem. OpenStack is hard, and just because you've packaged it doesn't change the reality of the operational burden, the time it takes to learn a new technology, all of the pieces. It doesn't solve that problem. And so what we found in our experience is that enterprises are looking for cloud. They're not looking for software. They want that cloud experience. And that cloud experience is an SLA, it's an API, and it's what your developers have come to become accustomed to in a public cloud world. And so some, again, can roll their own, and we do see organizations being successful in that way, but those organizations have decided that it is in their best interest. It is a business differentiator to invest the time, energy, and resource to go take either the open source code or that distribution and build a team to do that. And you hear stories about that from PayPal, from Walmart, from eBay, from Yahoo. But each one of those organizations has a team of engineers, 15, 20 strong, and these are not inexpensive engineers. These are top engineers that are incredibly expensive, incredibly competitive marketplace, but they're able to do it. So it's not as if OpenStack is an impossible project, but it takes expertise. Some use the distro model, but some have found a better way. And this is this private cloud as a service message that we are big believers in. So Blue Box started down this path 2 years ago. The company was founded in 2003, so we grew up in the cloud ecosystem. Ironically, we had a product built on containers that we launched in 2007, so I totally missed the boat on that one. But I caught it on the OpenStack wave. So the product we've had in market for the last 2 years was called Blue Box Cloud, and it was a hosted private cloud. So it ran on our hardware in our data centers, dedicated to customers. Blue Box managed all of the infrastructure. Blue Box managed all of the OpenStack bits, and the customer simply got back an API and a web interface to use that cloud. So in the same way that I go to a public cloud, the same way that I can go sign up today and get an API endpoint and begin working with my services, that was the experience we were trying to deliver with Blue Box. And so our customers said, we got past this no more what is OpenStack. I asked earlier in the room, like everybody in this room has heard of this technology. The questions changed from what is it to how do I get going? How can I integrate it into my business? How can I gain value immediately from this technology? And how can I consume it without having to touch all those other complicated pieces, right? I'm not in that business. Why would I spend my energy and time focused on something that doesn't differentiate me? So Blue Box was acquired in June, And in September, we launched Blue Box Dedicated on top of SoftLayer. So this brought the same product that we've been selling for the last 2 years, the same OpenStack managed service, into IBM's 30 global data centers. So today, you can buy a Blue Box Dedicated installation across the globe. We talk about data sovereignty laws. We look at things that are happening in Europe with the safe harbor changes over the last couple of weeks. This is becoming a really key, important message. Where does your data reside? And with this type of product, you have the ability to identify exactly where it sits. The other interesting thing here is now, with this type of footprint, you're able to get a global network of your own cloud implementations around the globe. So for organizations that are trying to figure out how to get a larger footprint than some of the public cloud providers can implement, this is a great way to do that. Again, the implementation starts at less than $10,000 a month, so you're able to get in at a very affordable price point. And then it scales up as an organization scales up. So this is not some multi-million-dollar software sale. This is not some hugely complicated environment. It's even available on a month-to-month capability. We're trying to bring that true cloud experience, that true public cloud experience, into this world of private cloud. So we followed that release of Blue Box Dedicated with this notion of Blue Box Local. How do we take the same capabilities, the same experience, the same technology, and move it from our data centers into a customer's data center? Well, first of all, why do we want to do that? We touched on it earlier. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Enterprises have huge amounts of data, transaction systems, mainframes, databases that aren't going to be moved to the cloud because it doesn't make sense to spend our time, which we don't have any of, to do that work. If there's not a huge value in doing that, nobody's going to spend their efforts doing that. They will put new projects, new applications, new workloads in the cloud, but many of those need to talk back to those legacy systems. So how can we support organizations that are looking to change the development approach, that are looking to adopt platform as a service, that are looking to adopt API-driven development or infrastructure as a service? How do we get that into a customer's data center? Blue Box Local brings that to a customer. So it's an on-premises private cloud, and using relay technology, we're able to manage it in the exact same way that we manage the dedicated implementation. So it's a little piece of IBM Cloud literally put in your data center. And there's no headaches. You don't have to worry about hardware versions, software versions, OpenStack. It's just an infrastructure as a service sitting there working for you. And so we match that with the VM service that is part of Bluemix, the public VM service. And now you've got an environment where you have public OpenStack, you've got dedicated OpenStack in SoftLayer, and you've got on-premises OpenStack. And they're all speaking the same set of APIs. So this is where that hybrid story that Bala mentioned starts to become powerful. You can take an implementation in your data center and do DR to a hosted implementation or run multiple hosted implementations around the world, and it just works because the APIs are the same. So at the end of the day, the question is, where do you really want to spend your time? This is the IBM Cloud value proposition. Do you want to spend your time figuring out the blocking and tackling of these underlying systems, or do you want to spend your time building the applications that leverage those systems? And we believe that using Relay, using this as-a-service model, private cloud as a service with Bluemix, that you're able to invest your time where it actually makes a difference for your business. You invest your time building software that will transform your organization, not figuring out all the nitty-gritty infrastructure, all the nitty-gritty plumbing, and we can do that anywhere for you. So that's the power of Blue Box, and that underpins the platform story.
Yep. Thanks, Jesse. So the same design principles that Jesse went through apply to Bluemix as well. So when you look at Bluemix and you look at the layers on top of that that provide the right abstraction for development and deployment velocity, whether it's containers or Cloud Foundry, we really focus on some of the core value propositions that are innovation focused. It is you focus on your applications. Don't worry about the infrastructure because that's taken care of. Extend your infrastructure between different clouds. Be able to structure for growth through some of the aspects that we talked about from a microservices architecture. None of them say manage them per se, right? I mean, I think that's not the value that is necessarily exposed. But you do have to manage them because you're delivering enterprise quality as a service. So whether we're talking about monitoring, we're talking about logging, whether we're talking about change management, incident and problem management, security, but more importantly, auditability of the environment, whether we're talking about capacity management, there's a set of technologies, integration, and capabilities that need to be provided to accomplish that. So when you look at Relay and the manageability, it is not manageability as in take your hands off and someone else will take care of it for you. It's how it is managed but also interconnected to your systems. So let me take a concrete example. One of the things that we support in Bluemix and the stack in general is to be able to patch or update the environment to the latest levels. And as Jesse was mentioning, things move much more frequently. Now, any change requires a level of impact analysis. So being able to integrate the delivery of a request to update, being able to control the change windows, being able to schedule it within your change management process as an enterprise to notify the application owners that there's a change coming, being able to support it in a staging environment before you move it to a production environment. All of those models work in this context. So as Jesse was mentioning, it is focus your time on building applications, on being able to connect it to the value processes rather than do some of the more mundane things around how do you update it, how do you maintain configuration consistency, et cetera. That's the value that we see in Relay, fundamentally. And also there are other capabilities like monitor for failure, et cetera. The other thing that I want to be, and maybe I'll emphasize in the next chart, when you look at Relay, it is a well thought out process that starts with taking a set of capabilities and deploying it in our public cloud. If you look at our public cloud, several 100,000 users, a very large plant, multiple geographies, et cetera, et cetera. So we get a variety of workloads and validate every release to make sure that they're actually robust. We take it through our own internal pipelines, from staging it to deploying it in production, how it works with services, how it works with the entirety of the application space that runs in the platform. Then there's a process by which we notify our clients who are running Bluemix locally on premise that there's an update that needs to be made. Once that notification arrives, there's a period of time in which the update can be scheduled. I think Damien this morning highlighted how you can pick change windows and so on and so forth so that that can be aligned to your business objectives. A lot of the capabilities after that happen within the context of your enterprise, whether it's monitoring information, whether it is collection of logs, all of that happen within your organization. So many of the security aspects that you are concerned about are more often than not within the bounds of your organization. So there's no data leakage effectively. The main interaction is in being able to understand when a release is available, be able to populate the release within your data center, you having the ability between IBM and you as our customers collaboratively define when that update can be applied, and then the update is propagated in your environment. Obviously, models like applying it to a staging environment before you apply to a production environment, all of those are available to be able to mitigate risk, et cetera, et cetera. So the notion of Relay, in terms of how it not only simplifies it and lets you focus on some of the key aspects of creation of applications, but do it in a context of enterprise requirements, whether it be change management, whether it's auditability, whether it is security, is a very important aspect of Relay. And we are more than happy to go into some of the details of how we ensure many of these capabilities. We touch on a variety of capabilities, whether it's how you can control governance, visibility of data, governance of which services are available, the catalog that you expose to your users, whether it's for cost control or for security purposes. Because, for example, an ad tech team might want to play with some services, but a production team might not want to do that. So having that level of granularity and being able to manage users in the context of your enterprise roles in LDAP or MSAD, et cetera, are kind of the key characteristics. And Jeff will go through some of the capabilities here.
Yeah, so we're going to cut over to the demo. Who wants some more demo? We've been around for a while. There we go. We got some demos later in the afternoon. I see some sleepy heads out there. I think the filet mignon is kind of settling in the stomach a little bit. We need to wake up a bit, and so I'm going to show you a demo. I think what we've been trying to say is really Relay is about a collaborative relationship. I often get asked, can we demo Relay? Well, when Relay's working, you don't know it's there. All you have is this capability and this cloud in your building or cloud in a dedicated environment. And that's really where we structured our major design points. We wanted to make sure that the public environment was just like the dedicated environment. It's just like the local environment. It's placement. It's the single tenant versus multi-tenant capabilities that we want to provide, so that you have the options to do what you need to do to adopt cloud and to move forward with retaining those cloud value propositions that Jesse was talking about. Where do you want to spend your time? So we want to spend your time developing applications, but we also recognize that you have an enterprise business to run. So does anyone want to hear a story about a large multinational company that's running Bluemix? Yes? Good. So I'm very proud of the fact that we have one very large company, multinational, that is running Bluemix today, in both dedicated and local. And that happens to be IBM. And no joke, our IBM CIO office came to us at the very beginning, just like many of our customers had, and said, Jeff, I really love Bluemix. When can I have it on premises? And we said, slow down. Slow down. We need to do some stuff here before we start transitioning into these models where we can scale up and provide this cloud value proposition. So we worked with the CIO office, and we started to realize and talk to them about workloads and how to classify workloads and how do an enterprise customer go about adopting cloud in a very responsible manner and do so in a way that enables what your objectives, what you're going for, the speed to value, the agility. So we've been working with our CIO office. They're our first beta customer for all dedicated and local deployments. They've been using the environment for quite some time. They've built the applications that support our sales team on opportunities. They build applications that help coordinate across different parts of the organization, and they deploy them to this platform. So you may not have seen this in Damien's demo, and it's really hard to see up here, but I'm demoing the live administration console from our CIO office. And that's where we get a lot of our data. And they've even done some amazing stuff with wrapping onboarding services, where you could accept terms and conditions. They've really taught us a lot about organization management and catalog management and various other things. So we have a very good relationship, and I hope that you all benefit from that. So with that, let's get into some of the stuff that maybe we didn't see. Hopefully everyone was around this morning and they saw the updates that Damien was talking about. We also have this very quick and easy way that you see notifications come into the system. As an administrator, I'm playing the role of an administrator persona, and I would use this as my dashboard, my way to view and manage our cloud value proposition across multiple environments here soon. But I see notifications, and I want to look through some of these notifications. The update that Damien showed this morning, we have some convenience features. I can set a date right from here, or I can go ahead and confirm the update for delivery. We didn't hit on some of the aspects, but we did take a look at usage. And for the usage information, we had a networking issue, I think. Let's take a look at the reports and logs. So the reports and logs are ways for us to grant visibility to our customers. Right? People want to know through this collaboration, how do I know what IBM is doing on the system? How do I know what's going on in our system? And that's where we've really focused a lot of our energy, is taking a look at the logs and being able to show and provide to your teams the capabilities to see what's going on in the system. So every operation in the console is actually logged through the administration console. And in our logs, we can see the operations that we're taking against the system. You can take these, you can download them, you can share them with colleagues if you have a broader system. We leverage QRadar as an internal system component to provide this capability. So if you're a QRadar customer, we can patch those events into your system so you can have an enterprise QRadar view. But we use a lot of our own software, a lot of our own, kind of say, eat your own cooking in building up Bluemix. We use QRadar for our security reports and log events. And here is some of those events that you can see. So when a Bluemix operator is taking or making updates to the system, what they're doing is they're going through a very rigorous privileged identity management process to check an ID out. So you have traceability of who's doing what in the system. And then all those events are logged so you can see exactly what's going on, also in conjunction with the reports that you have scheduled. There's other things that we have baked into the product in the spirit of governance. So where we see is that customers have multiple lines of business. Maybe this is an infrastructure team that's bringing Bluemix and IBM Cloud into their large multinational organization, but they still need to have this governance and control. So this is where Cloud Foundry lends us this notion of organizations, and then we take advantage of that by allowing you to to set quotas and control exactly your spend in the organization. We saw catalog management earlier today where you could set the types of services. And I always like to use a different example where you have multiple lines of business, and maybe you have a standard set of services that you expose to those lines of business, but you often, very often in these large organizations, you have a center of competency. Who has a center of competency type organization within their enterprise today? No one? One. Angel's got a center of competency organization inside his enterprise today, and they're seated right up here, apparently. Well, I highly suggest that you get a center of competency because then they can vet out these types of things like what services are suitable for our business. Do they operate under the right security measures? Do they have something where I can use that syndicated service from a security perspective, but also being able to test those things out in a center of competency organization where you have a list of a full palette of services for your team, and then progressively make those visible to the rest of the lines of business after they've been vetted by the organizations or by the overall team. Maybe it's risk and compliance. But here we have an organization view, and what we've done is we provide you a Bluemix environment, and then we provide you compute, whether it's Cloud Foundry-based runtime or containers. You have this platform where you can use and consume services as well as compute on the platform. And quotas is really your mechanism or your control point for deciding out which organization is able to use how much of the services and compute that I've purchased from IBM. And in this view, we see the organizations laid out. We can sort from who's using the most memory in the across the company. We can see who we've allocated a lot of compute power to in terms of a quota, but they're not really using that much. So I can take this information and maybe reallocate my quota across different organizations. And this is how you would control this. If you click on one of these runtimes, I'm not going to make any changes because this is an active production instance, but I'm able to see what they're using, and I can change their quota, and it'll readjust and make that available for me to add to a new organization. We didn't really hit on it very close this morning, but onboarding users into the platform. So how do I get my users from my organization into the Bluemix, be it dedicated or local? And what we do is through Relay in the local context, we were actually setting up for being able to leverage your LDAP. So you're going to use your own LDAP to bring users into the platform. It's read-only. We don't access your LDAP for we only access it for authentication, and what we do is when you use this console, you're able to go in here and say that we want to add Bala, which could be kind of dangerous. We're going to see if Bala's in here. Well, Bala's not in here because we haven't added him to this DIO thing. Sorry. We'll see Damien.
No, Bala is there, the second one.
Were you in there?
Yep.
All right, well, I'm going to give Bala something then. That's you?
Yeah,
I have you administrative. So here we looked up Bala in the system, and we have these very hard things to see. But you're going to have to trust me. These are the permissions that you're able to grant on the administration console. So I can go through and I can give Bala read and write access. I can give him login permissions. I can only give him a certain. Maybe Bala is part of our solution architecture team. It's a persona that we like to use when we're building our thing, our product through design thinking. We're building our product through design thinking. So we've conceptualized a solution architect, and maybe they need access to quota management and they need access to catalog management, but we don't want them onboarding users, or we don't want them doing some other functions like provisioning new compute into the environment. And this is the view in which we can add those solution architects into the administration console and give them the appropriate level of access. Obviously, this is for our enterprise customers that have a high degree of separation of concerns and other things like that. So we have a few more minutes. We've gone through organization administration. I can create new organizations and delete them. We saw catalog management this morning. I did want to show you one more thing that's related to catalog management. We saw Damien go through and look at these services and also be able to adjust them at a plan level. So not only can I make services visible across all organizations, but I can also do plan level, or I can provide plan level and services only to certain organizations. leading itself to our center of competency example. There's also a way to manage build packs. So we saw in the demo earlier today where we saw an update. Damien said that this is a new Node.js build pack. Often I get asked by customers, well, what happens when that build pack is applied to my environment? Well, the answer is nothing. It's applied to your environment, and then it's put to the bottom of this build pack list. Your running applications are not affected. Everything still continues to run as normal. Remember, we want to get you through this promote to production process in a way that lends itself to enterprise computing. And what happens is when we add a new build pack, it's added to the bottom of the list. And when you're deploying applications, it goes through this kind of handler chain for those that have worked in SOA or web services, but it goes down this list and it deploys the application with the appropriate build pack. And being at the bottom of the list where we put it, it gives you the opportunity to then test that build pack specifically for maybe any regressions that you have in a development space. And then as you've leveraged your CI/CD process where you have automated tests running through the suite, everything is passed, then you can use this capability and feature to move them further up the chain and make them available for being the foundation of your next application deployment. And you can test that through the canary and the red, green, blue, black, various different colors of the rainbow. But I wanted to give a little bit of opportunity because I'm sure there's a lot of questions out there. So from the audience, is there any questions about the administration console, the administrator personas, or anything else that we've kind of demonstrated today?
Or Relay in general.
Or Relay in general. Yes, sir. You got to have a mic.
Again, I'll maybe go back to operational processes and management. So you were showing how you can go in and actually change, I guess, the resourcing levels, the capacity, upgrade memory, CPU on the fly. How do you wrap that into a change management process?
You mean the quota management?
Yeah, the one you were demonstrating where you can just start to change with a slide, up and down resources, that sort of a thing. Do you wrap it? Do you just, because of the controls around the platforms themselves, do you worry about change management and approvals and that sort of a thing?
I think change management is an overlay in the sense that you can't always hide a control other than roles, for example. But if you look at the Ops console, it's not just a viewer. It actually is a complete system that has APIs underneath it, things like webhooks, etc. So when you have a change, for example, an update come in, you can automatically drive a request into your change management system. And then you can go through your traditional process, whether it's impact analysis or whatever it is, and then a person who has the right to update it can effectively update it. So you don't implement a change management system because that kind of defeats the purpose. But you need to have the right integration with the change management system so that you have your right escalation chains and everything else that you do as part of your normal process.
Very good question. Any other questions? Come on, don't be shy. I get questions in my email box all day long from many of you in this room.
I think people saw people bringing in beer, so.
I think, yeah, maybe so. Maybe so.
Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been great.
Thank you.